Today we're talking about Christmas, Bloody Christmas. It's a new horror film, a festive horror film on Shudder. Welcome to Boys on Film. My name is Phil Marriott. I'm joined once again by Paul Joseph. Do you like Christmas horror movies? We're going to do a special at some point in the next week or so.
Yeah, horror works really well when it's maybe sort of like stepping into a slight other genre or a place where it's unexpected. So if it's done well, Christmas horror I think can be quite appealing.
And also you feel quite cosy, don't you? So you're right, it's like having the rug pulled from beneath your feet, isn't it? You're not expecting something ominous. But then Christmas, I think, is all about creepy stuff because it's dark and wintry.
And an old man coming down your chimney.
Yeah, that's another video though. We can talk about that somewhere else. So this stars Riley Dandy, Sam Delich, I'm not sure how you pronounce Sam's name, Jonah Ray Rodriguez, Dora Madison and Jeremy Gardner. I'm not familiar with the cast at all. It's written and directed by Joe Begos and it's set on Christmas Eve.
Very early on we see some snippets from a sort of like cable TV thing about various things that are happening at Christmas, and they talk about a technology that was used in military defence to do kind of like ultra powerful robot army that they've realised they can use to be animatronics and replace Santa Claus in shops. So we have a animatronic Santa Claus in a department store
that's just doing this.
Yeah, and then we see on the headline for in the background later on that they're being recalled because some of them are reverting back to their militaristic programming. Two main characters work in a record shop. One of them owns it, one of them works for her. They're kind of like just talking music, talking shit, drinking, doing whatever.
And being very loud and annoying.
Yeah.
And sweary.
Yeah, very sweary. They're both quite anti-Christmas, so they basically go and go for a drink and also going to meet a friend of theirs who works in the toy shop to have some drinks. That then, against the backdrop of that, this Santa Claus kind of comes to life.
So in some ways you could say it's a sci-fi horror because it's robots.
It's actually the same, I guess, the same story and structure really of Chopping Mall, 1984, which is where
I love that movie.
A mall, yeah, I really like it. Where a mall has amazing security robots that go haywire and just start destroying everyone. Just as happens on the night when a group of horny teenagers decide to stay overnight in the shopping mall and have sex and drink and whatever.
It's always horny teenagers, isn't it? They always get bumped off really quickly. I mean, understandably
if you're in a horror movie, don't be horny and don't be a teenager. Although normally most horror movies where they're horny teenagers, they're actually played by people who look about 40. But
I really like the setting of it, though, because it felt like a neighbourhood that I would want to go to. I mean, there was nobody in the bars. Obviously, it was Christmas Eve. They're about to close. But when they're kicking out the bars, they're the only two people in there as customers. But I kind of like that. It's twinkly lights.
And there's quite a long scene where the two of them are kind of like walking along the street, chatting away as they go. Quite a small town. Lots of Christmas lights, and it felt really like that shabby Christmas Eve, like everyone else has gone to bed, they're still out and about, and it felt quite atmospheric in that way.
I was getting Gremlins vibes, not as well done as Gremlins, but very, very brightly lit, and I think it looked quite real in a way, even though obviously there was no one around. There was like 5 people in the village, basically, and that includes the policeman.
And obviously things go wrong, but ahead of that there's lots and lots of talking shit and like, you know, they're just
swearing,
like talking about music and talking about this, and I'm like, man, talking about like grunge music and your favourite Christmas record, and it's all
competitive and annoying. Oh, it's almost like they were younger than what they were. I'm guessing they were meant to be like mid-20s.
Yeah.
But they had that teen angst about them, didn't they?
Not quite stoner, but sort of like that. And also, I think there was going for that kind of very navel-gazing, self-aware, postmodern 90s thing. And it was all like, and it was great because the main character's female, and she just like had a foul mouth and was just swigging whiskey. But it did get a little bit like, oh my god, you're so over cool. Tim says about another friend, never met a B-side they don't like.
But I was getting the impression that the writer, Joe Begos, who's also the director, was a bit of a rocker as well. So he knew his music. You just got that impression that he was a bit like them in some ways. But they were swearing. Every sentence had an F-bomb.
Those two characters and performers were quite likeable. I felt there was just a lot of them doing that for quite a long time when there could have been more plot or establishing the other stuff that was going on.
It was too much, wasn't it? Were you ever scared by any of it?
No.
Well, do you think we were meant to be? Because, I mean, some of it was kind of laugh out loud funny. Because, I mean, some of the kills were really extreme, but in a really terrible way. Yeah. I mean, not believable at all. It's like bits hanging off of bodies and stuff. It's like, okay, that really doesn't look like a hand
someone getting chopped
off
in half, and very like faces being squashed, but it clearly being like a rubber, kind of.
But that confused me, because if it had been like that all the way through, I probably would have enjoyed it more, because I'm like, okay, this is the sort of film it is. But then tonally, it changed and it went really serious. It's like when she's getting help from the police. It went almost a bit try hard.
Yeah, try hard rather than die hard. A lot of horror films, what you like is the sort of gleeful escalation until it all kicks off. We got a vague portent of something happening through the news, and then we had the other two characters left on their own in the department store whilst for some reason this Santa Claus went on his rampage. A lot of what we saw was through Santa cams, so we kind of saw this, but then it then seemed like once he had dealt with those characters, he was then just straight off to get the other and it just felt like
Santa cam. That's brilliant.
I guess maybe because it's a low budget thing, it was just quite a small cast anyway. But most characters, apart from the first two and two they saw at the beginning, most other characters, the only time they were seen or were introduced into stories when they opened a door or came in and say, "What's going on?" and then got an axe in their head or something like that. So it just felt like there was just lots of like disposable characters that weren't introduced until very before their killing. I got a sense this is maybe one of those films that had a bit of crowdfunding or kind of very low budget, and I wonder if it was actually a lot of performers who weren't, professional performers, and then it just went on a bit.
It's a film that did actually hurt my ears in many ways, not just them swearing and being teen angsty and annoying, but also Santa's clompy boots, which sounded like they were recorded in a shoebox or something. It's like really boomy clump, like almost like RoboCop. But you're right, I mean, it does drag on. I mean, that final scene, the showdown at the end, it goes on and on and on, and I was kind of thinking, okay, finally, that's it. And it's almost like he does a Michael Myers. He gets back up and starts trying to kill. That final scene, it was just so relentless.
Yeah, and I kind of think it's one of those films where you just see a kind of like nice idea, low budget film with potential for maybe a remake that kind of does it all a little bit better. It didn't really focus enough on the antagonist. Yes, the monster or whatever was dressed as Father Christmas, but other than that, it soon apparently very obviously wasn't Father Christmas, so there wasn't even a lot of fun had with that, kind of like, I mean, I think there might be one bit where a kid saw him and was like, "Hi, Santa," and it just didn't have much substance to it. If a group of people happen to come back from the pub and have Shudder and want to put on a Christmassy horror film that they don't really focus on much because they're chatting shit and drinking whiskey or whatever, this would be fine.
So ultimately then, the final score, I'm sensing it's going to be quite low down, but for me, I mean, I kind of enjoyed it to a certain extent. Again, enjoyed the beginning more than the second half. I like the Christmassy feel of it. I like the chaotic, boozy, music-based stuff as well, obviously centering in the music in the record shop, and the Gremlins Christmassy feel of it. But the final act just dragged on and on and on, and I just got more irritated. It's not necessarily a long film. It's probably about the standard size running time, but giving it a score of 52%.
Oh, I'm going to go for 42. No, 40.
Wow, that is lower than I thought. I knew it was going to be low. I didn't realise that low. So it's a bit of a stinker. Yeah, I think we can safely say it's a Boys on Film blunder.
I wanted to like it a lot more.
So yeah, check it out on Shudder. December the 9th, that's when it's streaming from. Thank you, Paul, as always. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.